I'm about to make a lot of you mad. Hey everybody, we are here with a special report because you asked for it. Disney is opening their newest thrill ride this weekend officially. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind will officially open on May 27th in Epcot, and a lot of people are asking, how intense is this coaster? In fact, how intense are all Disney coasters? So today we are presenting a super scientific special report on Disney World thrill rides. Get ready. We've done the numbers. We've done the science. Experiment. Science. Numbers. Today, I will be taking you through Walt Disney World's 16 official thrill rides. We will be ranking these attractions both on their thrill and intensity and their overall theme, giving them a grand total. So we have one final list ranking the thrill rides in Walt Disney World. Now, before we get into it, again, 16 attractions. Did I pick the 16 attractions? That was weird. Did I pick the 16 attractions? No, I certainly did not, because some things on this list I wouldn't consider a thrill ride. I get it, for some people it's a small world, quite a thrill. And there's some things not on this list that you might consider a thrill ride. But we went straight to the source themselves. Walt Disney World went to their official list of thrill rides in the My Disney Experience app. So if you have a problem with something that's on or not on this list being categorized or not as a thrill ride, take it up with them. First up, in 16th place, dead last, probably no surprise for anyone, Kali River Rapids at Disney's Animal Kingdom. This is a round raft river rapid ride. Round raft river rapid, river rapid, river rapid, river rapid. This is a water ride located in the Asia section of Animal Kingdom. Now I know you're probably thinking, I just gave this the bottom score because it's my least favorite ride in Walt Disney World. Well, you're not wrong. I also consulted fellow experts and we all agreed Kali River Rapids is pretty low on the list of thrill rides. It has a 1 on the thrill intensity meter. There's no large drop. There's no nausea-inducing effects. There's no big spins. It builds you up like there's gonna be this huge drop like Grizzly River Rapids over in California Adventure or Splash Mountain. And then you just kind of bloop. It's also a very, very short attraction, which does not add to the thrill level. Additionally, the theming, we're giving it a 2. While the queue is very, very cool, there are even some birds in there, the overall theme is about logging, and most people don't walk away understanding that's the theme. And if people don't understand your theme, it's not been executed well. The only thing that really hints that it's logging is when you see a truck right before Everest. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway. If you do want to ride Kali River Rapids, it's obviously not high on the Molly must ride list, but it does take Genie Plus, so you can book a lightning lane for it. You don't typically need one though, unless it's the middle of the day in the middle of the summer when people are riding it simply to cool down. But normally you can walk on this attraction with a 30-minute wait or less. That's why Kali River Rapids, with a combined total of 3, kicks off our list in last position. Next up in 15th place, driving down the highway, AKA Test Track. Test Track is located at Epcot, and the current version takes you through testing a sim car on the sim track that you've designed, and you put it through a series of paces. The attraction ends with the most thrilling and really only thrilling part of the entire attraction, which is a lap around the sim track, which is actually an outdoor lap on a banked curb where you hit almost 65 miles an hour, making this Walt Disney World's fastest attraction. However, considering the only thrilling part of Test Track, unless you count the not braking part, but that's just more like, oh gosh. The only thrilling part of Test Track to most people is that outdoor banking moment, where you again go about 65 miles an hour, which, as often pointed out on RTT by Duckfist,
suddenly this is supposed to be a good attraction because you have a Volvo?
Is as fast or slower than you drove getting to Epcot. Because of this, we are giving Test Track a 2 on the thrill level, but because of the interactive properties of the attraction, the fact that you get to design your own car, it does have one cohesive theme throughout it. We are giving the theming a 3. Test Track is incredibly popular at Epcot. It is one of the most popular attractions there. Well, we'll see now that Guardians of the Galaxy is here. So it is one you are going to want to use Genie Plus on if you are purchasing the service for your day at Epcot. It's one you want to prioritize when booking your Genie Plus attractions. If you're not booking Genie Plus, it does have a single rider line which tends to move faster, but you don't get the entire design experience. If you would like to go in the standby line, I highly recommend going first thing in the morning or later in the evening. Be warned though, Test Track has a lot of technical difficulties. It also goes down for inclement weather, so Test Track can be very finicky and it doesn't always open on time. Just keep that in mind. Next up, in the 13 and 14 spots, we have a two-way tie between two Magic Kingdom attractions. Now this is where I remind you that this is ranking these attractions based on thrill and level of intensity, as well as the theme. This is not overall if they're a great attraction, because the list would certainly be different moving forward if this was just about how great the attraction is. Coming both in with a grand total of 6 points, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is the newest thrill ride in the Magic Kingdom, well, until Tron opens, am I right? Who knows when that will be? Seven Dwarfs Magic Kingdom is a very fun family coaster that takes you through the mines of the dwarves, and they invented new kinds of cars that actually swing like mine cars back and forth in addition to going around like a roller coaster. It is part coaster, part dark ride. It's got very fun animatronics in the dark ride section, but it's not incredibly thrilling. There are definitely some fun moments that'll make you giggle, and if you sit in the back, it's more intense than in the front like any other coaster. But it's definitely geared to being a family coaster. It's the lowest intensity coaster of any that made this list, which is why we're giving it a 2 in the thrill intensity category. However, because of the excellent theming, the animatronics, the dark ride section of it, the use of Snow White music, the spooky witch at the end, we're giving it a 4 as far as theming goes. It's a very cute, fun family attraction, which is why it always had an incredibly long line. This is considered a fancy ride with Disney Genie, so if you want to skip the line here, it's an individual cost. Otherwise, I recommend getting there early, especially if you are a theme park resort guest, or riding this one last thing at night. I love Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I think it's a very cute attraction. Some people say it's overhyped, and that's probably due to the constant 90+ minute wait out in the heat, but it is a very fun family attraction. However, not as thrilling as others on the list. And again, tied with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It pains me to see it so low on this list because it's one of my favorite Disney attractions. But again, this is a thrill ride throwdown. Now this one does get a 3 in the thrill category, higher than Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because it's definitely a step up from Mine Train as far as intensity goes. Especially if you're sitting in the back. When you whip around on the wildest ride in the wilderness around those curves, you will get thrown back and forth, which is why I love it so much and I giggle hysterically every time. There's also a couple of those out of your seat moments as you go through dips, again, especially in the back, which means we're bumping up the intensity level here. However, we're bumping down the theme score from Mine Train from a 4 to a 3. While it does have a very fun Western theme, the theme isn't quite as clear as others on this list, and it's not super duper themed the way that our top tier attractions are. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is a Disney classic, and it always has been. It continues to have a long line, however, not typically as long as some of the other mountains and e-ticket attractions in the Magic Kingdom. If you've got Genie Plus, it's a great use of it, but you can typically also snag a pretty low wait time if you go earlier in the day or in the afternoon. And if you're not a fireworks kind of person, the view on this attraction during fireworks is excellent. Coming in at number 12, Slinky Dog Dash, Toy Story Land in Disney's Hollywood Studios. Slinky Dog Dash is a knockdown from intensity for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It's a 2.5 on the intensity level. It's certainly more intense than Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It's got a quick start. It's got a few of those turns reminiscent of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It has a very fun like boing, boing, boing section that gets you getting that stomach feeling a little bit more than Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, but not quite as much as Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It is, however, in one of the best themed lands in all of Walt Disney World, which is why it gets a 4 in the theming category. Toy Story Land is adorable. You've been shrunk down to the size of a toy in Andy's backyard, and Andy put together this coaster himself. So as you weave through the incredibly hot queue, you will see the boxes for his go-karts, the boxes for his Slinky Dog, and you can see when you look at the track itself, it's made out of blocks and Jessie and Rex and Christmas lights, and it's just the cutest land ever, especially if you go at night. So we gotta give big points to this one at theming. However, again, it's not that intense. This is a very good family coaster. If your kid is loving Mine Train, if your kid had no problem on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, then they should have no problem on Slinky Dog Dash. The problem most people have with Slinky Dog Dash is, again, that incredibly long, incredibly hot line. There is not a lot of shade in that land, and that line is in the direct sun. It is available on Genie Plus. It's an incredibly popular lightning lane. This should be the first thing you book when you are booking your Genie Plus, not fancy rides, in Hollywood Studios, so you can avoid that long line. Otherwise, I recommend riding this one at night because 1, the land won't be as hot, and 2, like I said, this land is absolutely gorgeous at night. But Slinky Dog Dash slides into our next spot. And next up, we have a 3-way tie. 3 different attractions, all totaled 7 on our total thrill scale, but they all got there in different ways. The first of our 3-way tie, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This is the Star Wars land in Hollywood Studios, and this is the attraction that puts you in the cockpit of the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy as either a pilot, a gunner, or an engineer. Now, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is a dream come true for a lot of Star Wars people. If you have for 40 plus years wanted to step foot on the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, this is finally your chance to do it. The queue is impeccable. As you work your way up the catwalk of the docking bay there, you make your way onto the Millennium Falcon. You see Hondo Ohnaka, an incredible audio animatronic that's gonna walk you through your mission. You see the chest room. You see the wall where Han and Leia first had their kiss, and you step foot into the cockpit as you take your seat on the Millennium Falcon. It is a hard 5 for theming. It is one of the best themed queues, attractions, set pieces on the list. But it only has a 2 as far as thrill goes. Now, and most of that comes from potential nausea. This is the first one on our list that tends to make people nauseous, and that's because it's a simulator attraction. It's not as bad as other simulators that we're gonna get to. It's not as bad as some simulators that didn't make the list, Star Tours. But if you are someone that gets motion sick on a simulator attraction, this might do it for you. It is very, very fun, especially if you're in a group of 6 people. You've got 5 of your friends and family. You're yelling at each other to shoot faster or be a better pilot. The mission is the same every time you go on it. There's no big drop moments. There's no big stomach clenching moments the way there are on other attractions. So for thrill level, we're gonna have to give it a 2. Again, grand total of 7. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is incredibly popular, and if you're using Genie Plus in Disney's Hollywood Studios, I definitely recommend getting a lightning lane for this one. It does have single rider, however, the fun of this attraction is riding with your friends and family, and when you're single rider, you are going to be put most likely into the back as the engineer, intruding on a family's memories, as I often do, and the standby line gets very, very long. So my recommendation, again, use lightning lane, otherwise book your first lightning lane for Slinky Dog Dash, and then rope drop this one. The next of this 3-way tie, the iconic Splash Mountain. Located next to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad in Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom, Splash Mountain is the log flume attraction that drops you over 50 feet into the Briar Patch with Brer Rabbit. Splash Mountain is a great attraction to a lot of people for several reasons. One, it's a very long attraction, so even though those queues get very, very lengthy, it's about a 12-minute ride, so it feels like you at least got what you waited for, as opposed to seeing some of these other quicker attractions. And 2, it is a very thrilling attraction. There are more than just the big drop, but the anticipation leading up to that one big drop is very, very exciting, very, very thrilling, and you certainly get that stomach up in your mouth feeling when you go down that huge drop. I remember as being a little kid and being so excited to ride this back before I knew being wet was terrible. The anticipation, the excitement, especially when you start going up that final hill, is really an iconic and classic Disney feeling. Splash Mountain definitely scores higher than Smuggler's Run on the thrill chart, so we're giving it a 3. Now that one moment, that one drop is probably worth a 5, but considering the rest of this attraction is simply a nice boat ride listening to some nice music, the attraction itself isn't as thrilling as that one iconic moment. It does get a 4 on theme, however. The attraction, including the queue, is very well themed. You can listen for funny little noises from the different Brer characters. There's lots of sight gags. The entire attraction has the animatronics and the music we all know and love, so the theme gets pretty high marks. One thing I will say though, Splash Mountain is being changed into a Princess and the Frog theme attraction, both in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland. There's still no timeline and no dates announced as to when that's gonna happen. Will the theme go higher or lower? We're gonna have to find out. My guess is higher because I think the music's gonna be awesome and I think they're gonna do a very good job refurbishing it to be Princess and the Frog. But again, we don't know when that's happening. And they're not changing the track, so the thrill level should stay the same. Splash Mountain is incredibly popular, especially on warm summer days. I highly recommend getting Genie Plus using a lightning lane for this one when you're in the Magic Kingdom. Otherwise, try and go for it last thing in the evening. It's really fun to ride at night and look at the castle as you crest before you go on that big drop. Otherwise, you can try first thing in the morning, run over to Frontierland, but just know it often doesn't open in the morning because like Test Track, it has a lot of technical difficulties. And the last of our three-way tie, one of my personal favorites, Space Mountain. Located in Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom, this is the current tallest height requirement in that park and the most thrilling ride in Magic Kingdom. Again, until Tron decides to show up. Space Mountain is an iconic roller coaster rocket ship ride through the dark where you can't see anything, including the track in front of you except for the stars, and it may leave you feeling like you need to go to the chiropractor when you're done, but that is all part of the fun. It's a Magic Kingdom original that opened in 1975 and it's been thrilling guests ever since. It's definitely my favorite thrill ride in the Magic Kingdom, one of my favorites in all of Walt Disney World, and it's gonna get a 4 on the thrill lever factor. It makes a lot of people feel anxious just because it's in the dark, which is thrilling enough on its own. There isn't one big drop the way there is on something like Splash Mountain. However, there's enough of those dips that you don't see coming that get your stomach up in your throat. There's lots of spins around, so it's definitely more intense than anything else in Magic Kingdom and more intense than a lot of other attractions on this list, which is why we are giving it a 4. However, it's only getting a 3 as far as theming goes. Beyond that iconic Space Mountain music that, if I give you a second, you can hear it, can't you? Yeah, I can. There's not a ton of over-the-top theming in the queue or on the attraction itself. It's just kind of general space theme, so therefore not getting top marks in the theming category. Space Mountain is also very popular. Currently, it's included with Genie Plus, so it's part of that $15 and a good choice of using a lightning lane. When the system debuted, however, it was considered a fancy ride, meaning an additional cost. So it may go back to that at the end of the summer. It's currently scheduled to, but Disney could extend it being part of Genie Plus. If you are not using Genie Plus, you can always rope drop, especially if you are a Disney Resort guest, or this one doesn't get quite as long as Mine Train or Splash Mountain usually, so you can usually catch it later in the day without too terrible of a wait. Are you sitting down for this next part? We've got another two-way tie in the number 7 spot. You're not gonna believe which 2 attractions it is, so make sure you're sitting down. Are you ready? Avatar Flight of Passage and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. I'm gonna let that sink in. Again, this is when I remind you, this is a thrill ride throwdown, and while they are both epic, incredible attractions, many people's favorites in all of Walt Disney World, do they top the thrill list? Clearly, no. Let's start with the lesser of the 2 in my personal opinion, and I think a lot of yours, Avatar Flight of Passage. Actually, both of them, as I look at my scientific data, they have the same score and they acquired it in the same way. Interesting. Avatar Flight of Passage is certainly the most popular attraction in Animal Kingdom and was the most popular ride in all of Walt Disney World until Rise came out. Avatar Flight of Passage puts you on the back of a Banshee as you fly over the Valley of Moara in Pandora. But it is not that thrilling. It is wonderful. It is beautiful attraction. And if you're scared of heights, maybe. But it is essentially soaring with a fancy seat and 3D glasses. It is the most beautiful attraction on this list, that's for sure. And it is well worth the hype to most people. It's an incredible attraction. You should absolutely ride it. But we're giving it a 2.5 on the thrill meter. It's not overwhelmingly thrilling to most people. It is, again, beautiful. It is a must ride. It is a fancy ride, and it's gonna have a long line otherwise. It does, however, get the full 5 as far as the theming goes. It's a very cool queue, which is good because you're gonna be standing there for a long time. But you weave through the science lab with Hank in the tank, you weave through the cave, you weave through the bioluminescent forest. The entire attraction and the whole land in general is absolutely amazing as far as theme goes. And with the exact same score, Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance. Is Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance the most incredible attraction at Walt Disney World? Yes. Is it the best ride ever made? Probably. But it's not that thrilling when you're talking about thrilling, intense roller coaster thrill ride type attractions. Do you know what I mean? You get it. You're already yelling in the comments if you don't. Rise of the Resistance is a 20-minute experience that puts you in the middle of the battle between the First Order and the Resistance. It uses multiple ride systems, live cast members interacting with you, huge over-the-top sets. It is jaw-droppingly amazing. But it is not that thrilling of a vehicle. It is not that thrilling of a ride, because a lot of it, you're walking through it yourself. One really thrilling part of this, when your vehicle actually drops as you are in an escape pod, escaping with the help of Poe and Finn and Lieutenant Beck. It's very exciting, it's very well done, it's very incredibly immersive, it is excellent, but it's not as intense, thrill-wise, as the rest of the things on this list. Rise of the Resistance is an absolute must-do. You should do everything in your power to ride it when you are in Walt Disney World. It is a fancy ride and the hardest fancy ride to get, so if you are a resort guest, I certainly recommend trying to snag it if you are able. It does have a standby line, but that thing gets long. So if you're a resort guest and you don't snag a fancy ride lightning lane, go for your early theme park entry. If you're not a resort guest, still rope drop it. It's gonna be long, but it's only gonna get longer throughout the day. You can always try last thing at night, but because it's such a complex attraction, it has a lot of technical difficulties, so there's no guarantee it'll still be open in the late afternoon, evening. It's cranky, but I promise it's worth the hassle. Now that we're all over the shock of Rise of the Resistance not being at the top of the list, let's move into our number 6 spot, which is Rock and Roller Coaster, starring Aerosmith, located in Disney's Hollywood Studios. As far as thrills go, this one gets a 5. And this is the time when I remind you that we are ranking these amongst each other. This is not like the most intense ride in the world. Go down the street to Universal Orlando, you're gonna get on much more intense roller coasters. As far as Disney goes, this is a 5. It's the only attraction at Walt Disney World that goes upside down, and it does it 3 times. It goes 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds as your launch, and you are listening to rock and Aerosmith music the entire time. It is a very, very fun and very intense coaster as far as Walt Disney World goes. I love it, it's a blast. It does falter a little bit on the theming. It's a 3.5 on our scale. The queue theming is very fun. You are headed into G-Force Records to go on a tour when you happen to see Aerosmith and they decide to bring you along to their concert. However, the theming on the coaster itself is nothing that exciting. It's basically cardboard cutouts and black light. However, if you're a coaster fan, this is a really great attraction and you should definitely check it out. My nephew rode it. I think it scarred him for life, but some older kids will enjoy it as long as they hit that 48-inch height requirement. Rock and Roller Coaster is very popular. It is a very long attraction queue. However, it does have single rider, which you may want to utilize. You will be separated from your parties. It's another great one to try and use that lightning lane on, or book your lightning lanes in the morning for Rise of the Resistance as your fancy ride, for Slinky Dog as your not fancy ride, your regular genie ride, and then go rope drop down Sunset to get on Rock and Roller Coaster. And another one on this list, that's an ideal way to kick off the day if you are blending the lightning lanes and the knots. You can go check out my Perfect Day series where I do a little bit of that to hopefully help you plan your day. But Rock and Roller Coaster is awesome, not to be missed. It does have a lot of technical difficulties though, so like others on this list, so keep that in mind as well. I think first thing in the morning is a great time to run down Sunset and knock out 2 big rides. We've made it to the top 5 of the most thrilling attractions in Walt Disney World, and we've got another 2-way tie. We are talking Dinosaur at Disney's Animal Kingdom and Mission Space at Epcot. And once again, they have the exact same score in the exact same fashion. Starting with Dinosaur, my favorite of the 2 here, located again in Dinoland USA in Animal Kingdom. This is an attraction that takes you back in time to deal with the dinosaurs as you try and bring back an iguanodon to present day. We are gonna give it a 5 on the thrill meter. While it doesn't have any big drops, it doesn't spin, it's not a roller coaster, there are a lot of things that factor into the thrill intensity category that give this such a high ranking. Number 1, it's basically all in the dark. It's very, very dark at times. In fact, you can't even see your hand in front of you. It is so pitch black dark, which scares adults and kids alike. Number 2, it's incredibly loud. It is one of the loudest rides at Walt Disney World, which again terrifies some kids and some adults. It is very, very jerky. The motion of the vehicle uses these hydraulic jeeps that they use over at Indiana Jones Adventure in Disneyland. But because you can't see where you're going, because you can't typically see the track, you get thrown around a lot, which a lot of people find too intense for their comfort. And number 4, there are gigantic audio animatronics of huge life-size dinosaurs. If that doesn't count as intense, I don't know what does. Now, I love Dinosaur. I think it is one of the most underrated attractions in all of Walt Disney World because it often gets outshone by things like Expedition Everest, like Flight of Passage. But it's a very fun attraction if you are into this kind of intense, almost scary, dark, loud attraction. It has a warning sign outside warning adults that this might be too loud and too intense and too scary for their kids, which is something I cannot say about anything else on this list. Dinosaur again gets a 5 as far as thrill goes, but it gets a 4 as far as theming goes. It's an incredible pre-show. It even has some actual fossils and exhibits in the entryway and the queue as well. However, it's just not as over-the-top themed as some of the others, especially the top ones on this list. So comparatively, had to knock it a little bit. But it's a very good attraction and it's very, very fun. Dinosaur doesn't tend to be as popular as other attractions in Animal Kingdom, so you don't need to use Lightning Lane on it. You can usually jump in line, especially in the afternoon, with little wait and standby. I love Dinosaur. If you love Dinosaur, let me know in the comments. I think it's underrated, but it's definitely intense and it's definitely thrilling for a lot of guests, especially the little ones. And again, the other attraction tied with Dinosaur is Mission Space. Now, I'm specifically talking about Mission Space Orange right now. And if you're not familiar, Mission Space has 2 different levels of intensity because when it debuted, it only had the top level, and so many people threw up and got sick on the attraction that Imagineering was forced to turn half the attraction into a less intense version. So it's no surprise that this is getting a 5 on the thrill intensity meter. Mission Space simulates you going to Mars on a space mission that apparently you're qualified for somehow. Well, really, they're just putting you through astronaut training, but it feels pretty realistic. My grandmother thought we were actually in space when we went on it. You will be given one of 4 different positions, and then you enter a very, very small claustrophobic cockpit that on the orange side, to simulate G-forces, spins around like on an octopus arm, and then it drives you through space as you go on a mission, which, warning, doesn't go according to plan, so then it gets really intense and rocky. If you want to talk about intensity as far as simulators go, it is the most intense simulator I have ever been on. It is the only attraction in Walt Disney World that comes with barf bags, and they have custodials still stationed to the building because still so many people get sick on this attraction. It does not get more intense than Mission Space as far as your stomach goes. It also is gonna get a 4 as far as the theming goes. It's a very fun themed area. Disney made up their own shade of red to color the planet outside because they wanted to draw you in. However, again, when you see what's at the top of this list, if you haven't guessed it already, it's hard to give anything else top marks until we get to the top 3. So let's get into it right now. Before we do though, Mission Space, definitely immediately popular. A lot of people are at Epcot eating and drinking and they're smart enough not to then ride Mission Space. It can get a little bit of a longer line, but you can usually catch it 30 minutes or less. And as a little pin, there is the green side where you don't spin. I would put that one a lot lower than orange as far as intensity goes, but if you've been on orange, you know what I'm talking about. This is an intense attraction. Which brings us to the medal platform, baby. We are in the number 3 spot, bronze medal, and it's going to the newest thrill ride, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is a blast and a half. It's putting you on an adventure with your favorite Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't want to get into the plot too much here because it is brand new and a lot of people don't want spoilers, but spoiler warning, we're going to be using footage of it, so go away and come back at this time. You've been warned. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind again opened officially on May 27th in Epcot. It is in the building that used to be Universe of Energy, then Ellen's Energy Adventure, and puts you in the middle of the action with your favorite Guardians. The plot of the attraction is that the same way countries from around the world have pavilions in World Showcase, this is the first interplanetary pavilion to come to Epcot with the planet of Xandar. They're excited to show technology, resources, teach you things about their planet, learn things about you. So as you weave through the queue, you are in the Wonders of Xandar Gallery. You are going to be in the Galaxarium, which has some very funny references in it, talks a lot about Star-Lord. You then move your way into the gallery where there's actually nods to Walt Disney and Progress City, his original idea for Epcot. You are gonna watch the Guardians get interviewed on Good Morning Xandar. It's very, very funny. This queue is very well done. There's a lot to look at and do if you are in a long line. You then have not one, but two very excellent pre-shows, including some incredible technology that I don't want to spoil and will refuse to spoil. Even in my video, I didn't show it. Starring Glenn Close and Terry Crews. It's then up to you to help the Guardians save the galaxy. So you're gonna board these brand new Omni Coaster vehicles. They say Omni Coaster because they're specially designed for this, and they actually spin 360 so that they can have you look at different things throughout the coaster. You are also going to enjoy the first reverse launch ever in a Disney park in the United States. And it is so much fun. Cherry on top, there are 6 different songs you could get, and you don't know which one it's gonna be until you hit that reverse launch. I am obsessed with this attraction. It is worth the hype. So many people came out of this one during previews just so excited and so hyped, and I promise it is worth all of that excitement. But let's get into the rankings. It's getting a 4.5 on the thrill intensity meter. There's no big drops the way there are on Expedition Everest. There's no upside downs like Rock and Roller Coaster. There's a few little dips here and there, but they don't even give you as much of that stomach in your throat feeling as Space Mountain. The reason that this attraction is intense though is because of the spinning, is because it doesn't stop, because it's a long coaster, and because it is, oh gosh, it is just so darn fun. Now I know a lot of people are worried about the spinning. I was as well. However, even though the vehicles can turn a full 360, they never do all at once. It's not like the teacups, like you're spinning like this. However, you are gonna pivot, you are gonna swing, you are gonna go different directions. There's also the use of screens as part of the backdrop of the story. So while it's not as screen-based as, say, Escape from Gringotts over at Universal Orlando, there are big screens around you helping tell the story as you go throughout the coaster. It made a lot of people very nauseous, but I luckily wasn't one of them. I rode it 12 times in one day, and I loved it. So it is a little bit intense for some people, however, not the most intense on this list, and I was lucky not to get sick. If you are worried about getting sick, I recommend sitting in the front row, because of course the back gets more and more intense the further back you go. I also know a lot of people took Dramamine or had ginger oil or wore those C-bands. They did something to make sure they wouldn't get sick, and a lot of those hacks worked. If you want the best seat though, my recommendation is the row 5 and 6, just smack dab in the middle. You're gonna get the best show, and there's a lot of show elements to this as well. Which is why this one gets a 5 as far as theming goes. Not only is the queue excellent with lots to look at, lots of hidden details, lots of Easter eggs, the pre-shows are excellent, and the entire coaster itself is incredibly well themed with hilarious audio from the Guardians. You've got that different music playing. It's huge, gigantic sets. It's a gigantic building, a gigantic, very long coaster. I cannot say enough nice things about this. It is awesome. It is already in my top 3 favorite Walt Disney World rides. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, again, gonna be incredibly popular. It initially is only gonna have 2 ways to ride it, and no, standby is not one of them. It is a fancy ride, lightning lane, meaning it's an additional cost, or there is a virtual queue. You can head over to AllEars.net for all the details on both of those and how to book it, but it's definitely a popular one, and it's definitely worth it. We have made it to the top 2 spots, and wouldn't you know it, our numbers 1 and 2 tied for the gold medal. They are both getting perfect 10s across the board, And you guessed it, if you've been paying attention, you know that's Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain, and the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Both of these attractions are intense, they're both incredibly well themed, super thrilling, and both stand just over 199 feet tall, making them the tallest attractions in Walt Disney World as well. Expedition Everest is located in Asia in Disney's Animal Kingdom, and it's a thrilling roller coaster through the Forbidden Mountain where you come face to face with the legendary Yeti. This attraction takes you up almost 200 feet. It features an 80-foot drop. It goes upwards of 55 miles an hour. It shoots backwards intensely through the mountain. It is so much fun, but it certainly gets a 5 in the thrill category. Not only do you have that huge drop that definitely has that stomach in your throat feeling, but you've also got that backwards sensation that a lot of people don't care for, but I love. And then you just have the moment where you're climbing up to the top of the mountain very slowly, which is almost more scary because you get enough time to look around and see truly how high up you are. It also gets a 5 for theming. It's an original story. There's tons of backstory information in the queue, as well as the surrounding area. It is incredibly detailed as you walk through the queue. You can see signs of the Yeti, you can see signs of the locals, you can see signs of the tourism company that's booking you through. You go through a museum at one point. It is an incredible, incredible attraction. One of my favorites in Walt Disney World. It is top-notch, an A+ attraction. Absolutely must do if you're a thrill seeker, but it's definitely too intense for some. Expedition Everest is currently in Genie Plus, meaning not a fancy ride. It's included with your Genie Plus purchase. However, it usually moves pretty quickly. It doesn't get too long of a line. There's also a single rider. Put Expedition Everest on your list. It is so much fun. If you're a thrill seeker, it's an awesome attraction. And Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. This is some people's favorite ride in all of Walt Disney World, and I absolutely don't blame them. Let's start with the thrill. You know it's gonna be a 5. It's spooky themed, which adds to the thrill, and it's a drop tower attraction, which is a thrilling sensation, too intense for some, nausea-inducing for others, but for a lot of people, it is just right. It's gonna take you up 199 feet tall and drop you down, and in fact, they use cables to pull you down faster than the speed of gravity. Adding to the thrill level, the drop tower is a randomized pattern, so you don't know if you're gonna start by going up, by going down, which order you're gonna drop in. You don't know quite when it's gonna end, which certainly adds to it. But also adding to the thrill factor is the theming, which is also a hard 5. This is possibly the best themed attraction in all of Walt Disney World. It is themed to the Twilight Zone, the Hollywood Tower Hotel, which was struck by lightning in 1939 on Halloween night, and it stands the way it did those many nights ago. There are cobwebs everywhere, glasses are left where they were with lipstick stains still on them. You'll step into a dark room where you're greeted by Rod Serling, who delivers a little story about what happened here. And it's just an overall incredible attraction. The Imagineering here is amazing. At one point, the elevator moves forward in a feat of Imagineering before you drop through that terrifying elevator shaft. It's an A+ attraction and definitely worth the top spot alongside Expedition Everest. Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is incredibly popular. Highly recommend using Genie Plus and booking a lightning lane for it. Otherwise, go first thing in the morning. It's sometimes a lower last thing at night as well, but it's been around for a long time and it maintains that popularity because, well, you can hear people screaming down Sunset. It's that thrilling and that exciting. Well, there you have it, folks. An incredibly scientific and extremely precise ranking of the Walt Disney World thrill rides from least thrilling to most thrilling. Let us know which one's your favorite. You want to fight for one to be higher? You think one's too high? You think something's missing from this list? Let us know down in the comments. Hopefully this was helpful for you to decide what thrill rides you're ready to tackle on your next Walt Disney World visit. In the meantime, friends, it's been magical. Now go watch my video all about Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind.